Welcome back into the mental game, where this week's guest is actor Jim O'Heir.
Never planning suicide. Never, ever did I think, here's what I have to do to get. But every day, I can't live like this. I can't live. This can't continue.
And in this episode, Jim talks about his acting career, where he is most well known as Jerry on the hit TV show Parks and Rec. But for the first time ever publicly, Jim opens up about his own mental health struggles, suffering from panic attacks when he got here to Hollywood, losing both his mom and his dad, what it was like to go to therapy for the first time, and how he started taking care of his mental health and has continued to these past 20 years. All of that and much, much more coming up in this amazing conversation. But first, I want to tell you about Man Therapy. And guys, I am talking to you because, look, we have to be comfortable being vulnerable and talking about our mental health. And that's why I want you to go to mantherapy.org to find amazing tools and resources to help you with your mental health. But now it is time for the latest episode here on The Mental Game with Jim O'Heir. Welcome back into the mental game. As you can see, I got a very special guest sitting next to me here in LA, Jim O'Heir. You might know him from Parks and Recreation. Jerry, Gary, Larry. Well, I'm missing
Terry and Barry. 5 names.
5 names on Parks and Rec.
5 names over 7 seasons.
But your legal name, Jim. Thanks so much for coming on the mental game.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is really something I've been looking forward to. I reached out to you, reached out to your manager, and usually for the people behind the scenes listening and watching, usually I work with managers, agents, publicists. You hit me up right away. We're like, I love this idea.
I was telling you off camera. I get, just the nature of the things. I get invited every single day. There's another invite to whether a podcast or interview, whatever it is. And I'm open to doing stuff, but just there's not enough time. There just isn't. Thankfully, I'm still pretty busy as an actor, and that's my heart and soul. So I want to keep doing that. But this one, because of the mental health aspect of what you're doing and people are talking about, it just resonated. I was like, okay, we'll try to figure out a date.
Well, thank you. That meant a lot to me because it was just very direct. So I'm happy to have you on and tell your story. Like you said, you've been acting for over 30 years out here in LA. Parks and Rec, I think, is what people obviously are going to recognize you the most from. It's such a special project. But you're still all over the place acting. I want to go through your story here in Hollywood, but before your childhood, kind of your mental health journey as well. But the first thing I ask everyone on the mental game is, what does mental health mean to you? And it's a very unique question and answer because we all go through our different journeys. Maybe there was a traumatizing event that made you think more about it, or maybe you just didn't take care of it because it wasn't what we talked about for so long. But I ask you the same thing. What does it mean to you?
I never gave two seconds of thought to mental health until I had an issue. And then I realized it's everything, because I went from living a very happy, exciting, scary, what's going to happen life as a wannabe actor to I could see no light at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't see happiness. And it happened, so, in my case, and I'll tell the story, but it happened so quickly. Mental health, and thankfully I think I'm mentally healthy, and it's peace for me. It gives me, I can look to the future with excitement. It doesn't mean every day is still wonderful, and we all have shit happen every day. That's life. You have disappointments. You have life. People pass in your family, all sorts of things. Relationships go through stuff, but overall, mental health is it's a big part of who you are and what you can do. Because I've always said if I hadn't been able to get through what I went through, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know. And I know, and we'll probably talk about this. People say, what do you mean you would kill yourself? You would have killed yourself? I never had thoughts that I would kill myself, but I had thoughts of, I can't live like this. So I don't know, is that one and the same? Are those totally different thoughts?
It depends on how deep they go and where they're at. And I'm someone that people that watch the show, and we talked about this before, like I've battled suicidal thoughts since I was 14, 2 years ago, hit rock bottom. It doesn't mean just if there's an attempt or there's a means. I mean, you have that thought cross your head if you don't want to be there. A lot of therapists and psychiatrists will say, yeah, I mean, that's a suicide. It's a passive suicidal thought, but
it could have been but again, there was no like plan. There was no, here's what I'm going to do. It was just, this has to change. This can't be the rest of my life. Well, because when it happened to me, I was in my 30s. Mm-hmm. So, and thankfully I'm still here 30 years later. And the thought of, well, I couldn't live like that for the following 30 years. So I don't know.
Well, that's what, when I checked into a hospital, I go, look, I told my mom, you don't know this, no one knows this, but I don't know how to live anymore. I don't want to live. I don't know where to go, but I need to do something. It's been 3-4 months of every second of every day not wanting to live like this anymore, not wanting to live at all. Yeah. And so it is a really hard, strange feeling, but you keep saying the word change. And that's one of the biggest things with mental health. You can have all the family, friends, psychiatrists, medicine, therapy around you, but if the person in the mirror, if you in your 30s didn't want that change to happen and to reach out for help, then it doesn't happen. I've lost friends, unfortunately, to suicide, to drug overdose, and one of my best friends from high school addicted to painkillers, and like we tried so much, and so did his family with therapy, with inpatient, and eventually he OD'd, and but he never wanted to get better. He was stuck in the addiction, and it was so hard with his mental health. And I'm
going to say this about painkillers, and this is just my thoughts. I'm no I have played a doctor on television, but I am not a doctor. Those break my heart. Those addictions break my heart more than most, because they're all heartbreaking. But you've had something happen, so they put you on a pain pill. Mm-hmm. Say you wrenched your back. You screwed up your knee, whatever. Yeah. They put you on something. And pain sucks. Pain sucks. Mm-hmm. So you take this pill, and that pain goes away. Like, wow, that's pretty great. And you took it in all good conscience, because medically, now I'm sure there's some people who just heard it's a good high and maybe they take it for that. That I don't know. Yeah. I'm talking about people who physically had an issue. Yeah. Like my brother had back problems, and I said, "Are you taking anything?" He goes, "No, I don't want it. That scares me." And I'm glad it scared him. Yeah. Because that relief, because everybody wants relief from pain, whether it's mental pain or physical pain. Yep. We all want relief. Yep. Because we live in a world where there are ways to make the pain go away. Some healthy, some not so healthy. And in your friend's case, it began maybe healthy. Yeah. And then it went awry.
Yeah, and it led to other things. And, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and so I used to numb pain with alcohol. It's just I keep going back to that word change, though, because you have to want to make that change. But there's also reasons why you get to that point. So obviously I want to get to Parks and Rec and your acting career and all the fun, glamorous stuff.
Yes, so glamorous.
Yes. Yeah, I wish I could show your feet in this. I guess on the wide shot we can see
You know what I'm going to do?
Oh, my God.
I'll show you. He is loving my... Are we seeing this?
There's sandals right here on this one. There's
sandals.
With fur. If you're just listening, they're incredible. They're like Birkenstocks, but...
They are Birkenstocks with fur.
With fur. They're incredible.
Yes. They're, I don't know. I love them. Yeah. I keep my toesies a little warm. I have a pair for the summer, where it's basically almost the same shoe without the fur. Yeah. I tell you, when you're living large, baby, that's how you roll.
Glamorous lifestyle is a Hollywood A-list right here at these. But I want to dive in, and you've mentioned your parents before, and dealing with things in the house, them being smokers we were talking about beforehand off camera. But just walk me through your childhood. Did you ever dream of being an actor? Where did this kind of path come from for you?
Yeah, this is all interesting, because I've just had to go down all this path, because I have a book coming out in November. Awesome. It's mostly about my years on Parks, but it's also about my life. And so I just went, it's all right there. I just love television. I love film. I just loved it. Sitcoms. Yeah. I used to dream. Now, when I think about it, I don't even know how I knew about table reads, but I dreamt that I was at table reads for Saturday Night Live. That's awesome. I dreamt I was at a table read with John Belushi. I had a dream of that. So there was always that. But I was also the fat kid, and still the fat adult. Yes. See, what's nice?
I don't.
No. Here's what's nice about it. Now, a lot of people, when they have to go to their reunions, are like, "Oh my God, I got to lose a bunch of weight because the last time these people saw me." Not me. You saw me. I was fat when I graduated. I'm fat now. You see me on TV all the time. Still fat.
I'm not laughing.
Feel
you.
free.
I'm laughing with you because
yes.
again, people just listening, you are fucking hilarious the way you're describing all this. Sorry, continue.
No. But the bottom line is, I wasn't looking to stand out because you kind of already stand out, when you're different. In my case, I was a fat kid. And that being said, and let me put this out there because other kids with whatever their issues were had it a lot tougher than I did. I had an amazing family, as well as I had always had a great group of friends.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they forgot because we'd be out and they would make a comment about someone else on the street. I'm thinking, that's me. But it's like they didn't connect that. I don't know what that was. So I got along with, I had a good crowd of kids. And as you get older, I was always, I think, pleasant to be around enough, but never enough where I wanted to be the center of attention or anything like that, because you have your insecurities about your body and all that kind of stuff. And I just told the story in the book. There was the theater at school. In my school, there were three things. You were either a jock, well, actually kind of four. A jock, a burnout, which meant you were smoking the pot, you were doing whatever. Just kind of the nerdy, student-y kind of regular kid. And then, and I'm sorry to use this word, but this is what it was I was in high school from 76 to 80. Yeah, 76 to 80. The drama. And I know that word is awful, but that's the word we used at the time. And I wanted to be a drama as far as I wanted to be on that stage, because I'd go to the plays and go, my God, that's so cool. It looks like they're having so much fun. But God forbid. Because then you're labeled. Oh, when you look back on life, for any young people listening, don't care what anyone is thinking about anybody else. Who cares?
I tell high schoolers or college kids when I'm in high schools, I don't use the same language, but who gives a...
Well, you can't. That language is awful, but that is what was...
I was going to say, who gives a fuck?
Oh, yeah,
about
the drama term, because that's an awful term. But that is what the term was in 1976.
Well, there was a derogatory... there was a derogatory stigma if you did drama or if you did dance. Look, my aunt was the drama director at LaSalle High School in Cincinnati. My entire family did theater. We also played sports. You mentioned all these categories. We all fit into them somehow.
Yes.
I was also, smoking pot in high school. So it's there's all those categories. But with you found that opportunity to, I don't know if shine's the right word, but to feel at home, to really find that calling of you dreaming of sitting with, at SNL doing table reads. Now you get a chance to be on stage in high school.
At this point, but I didn't do it, of course, in high school because
what?
I didn't do it, dude. This is what I'm saying. Because of the stigma of being labeled, I did not do it. So I was very much just one of the regular students, good grades. I wouldn't say a nerd, but I had my little crowd that I hung with, and I don't think I even started drinking. I did not. I'm trying to think. Well, I can tell you the first time the first time I was drunk was after high school. I was in this thing called Distributive Education, which is a club, and I was the president of the club, and I had won some competition, and now I was going to Florida, and I went to Florida, and I got drunk on the beach with a bunch of the other kids. So we weren't even drinking in high school. We were pretty good kids. Not that it makes you a bad kid if you're, anyway, not judging any of that. But I wouldn't do those plays because then I don't want to be labeled that.
Yeah.
And so you didn't do it. So stupid. So stupid.
So how did you find the stage?
It all happened because when I went to college, I went to Loyola in Chicago for accounting. And I went for accounting because, and this is another stupid thing you're about to hear, my friends were doing that, and it sounded like, oh, that sounds like a job. I had because I always say, I don't know how people know at 18 what they're supposed to be doing for the rest of their life. I really find that. And there's some people I've always wanted to be a doctor. I've always wanted to ABC. That's awesome. If you knew that. I mean, I kind of knew it, but I never thought it could ever happen. So I go to Loyola. They had a radio station there, WLUW, Chicago. And it only aired like in 12 blocks around the college.
Right.
It was nothing. And they were looking just to fill shifts. Anybody could do it. And I did it, and I loved it. It was really fun. They let you chat. They let you play your music, whatever. And so, and I was talking to my parents. Again, here's how supportive my parents were. So here I'm in, Loyola, great school in Chicago, wonderful college. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm liking this. I don't know. And my mom said, but you seem to love that radio, because that's all I was talking about.
Yeah.
And I said, I really do. I don't know. A couple weeks later, she goes, listen, I found this school. It's called the Midwest Broadcast School or Academy or something.
Yeah.
She goes, why don't you check that out? And I did. And it was how to become a DJ from A to Z. So learning how to be on air, how to be off air, how to edit, how to produce. And that's what I did. I switched and I went there, and I ended up with a, at the time, it's not a degree, I don't think technically, but it's a
certificate.
A what?
Certificate?
Well, I guess, but you basically leave here with a demo tape.
Oh, yeah, a reel.
A reel that you now send, and this is the old days, you guys. We're talking mid-'80s. You're physically shipping it all over the country, these little demo reels with letters and blah, 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 and then some, you get mostly hear nothing back.
Yeah.
Because they probably got 100 a day and they throw them in a bin. Or what I learned later when I was at a radio station, they would reuse the tape. Because again, this is when tape was happening. So they were these shitty little cheap radio stations, and they're reusing people's demo tapes, just recording over them for their spots, commercial spots, or whatever. So yeah, I know. So, craziness. But anyway, this place in Rensselaer, Indiana called me. And I went there and I met them. And he said, okay, you got the job. So it paid.
Let me guess. Because when I started, it was 24, and that was 10 years ago. For full-time on-air TV. I'm going to guess 11 or 12.
Wait, what number are you saying?
11 or 12,000 for a year.
Oh, boy. Ain't you dreaming?
Fuck, you were lower than... You were at
Dude, but you got to remember.
Was it part-time?
Mid-80s. No.
I did two. All right, so it had to be, what, 6,000?
I had a shift every day. I did 2 shifts on the weekends because they had a sister FM station that had to basically just cover the board because it was on reel to reel where they had it all preset. Yeah. You do commercials, you do weather and news updates, sports and news at the top of the hour. So I took home $120 a week. Now, my rent was $475. So that left me with $5. Which meant credit cards. It was a shit show. It was a shit show. But anyway, to get back to how the acting thing happened. So I get a random call one day. The secretary said, somebody wants to talk to you off air. Okay. So during a commercial break, I get on, and it's this guy, and he goes, hi, I wish I could remember his name. I wish I could remember because it kind of veered my life. He said, my daughter goes to St. Joe College, which was in that area, and I listen to you all the time when I'm going back and forth. He lives in Chicago. And he said, I just think you're funny. I've worked with Second City. You should consider, going over there. And it just kind of sat in my head. Second City, boy, that's John Belushi. That's,
SNL,
Bill Murray. That's SNL people. It's all that. Anyway, so when that gig ended, the radio gig ended, that's what I did. I went to Second City. And the teacher was named Martin DeMott, passed away too early from AIDS, heartbreaking, super, super crazy talented guy. And I'll never forget my first time on the stage. And in those days, it's all different now. They have what they call a training academy there now. But you trained on the stage that these people performed on. And I got up there and I got my first laugh. And that was it. Something hit in my head like, damn, that's it. Oh, I love that. Oh, God, I love this. I love this. I love this. Never in 1,000,000 years thinking it would pay a bill. But I thought I will always be involved in this. Yeah. I love this. And then, as you're learning, you're taking classes, all this, you don't always get laughs. Sometimes you do terrible. It's improv. It's the nature of the beast as you learn. But I loved it. I just really loved it. And then at the end of all of that, I got together with 5 other people from all this training, and we created a comedy group called White Noise. And we did for the time, some pretty amazing shows in Chicago that to the point where Bernie Solins, who was running Second City, came and saw us. He says, wow, I've been hearing about you kids, because we went from improv to sketch. And then from sketch to full-blown productions like
Oh, wow.
plays with
Yeah.
musicals. And none of us are great singers, but we pulled it off. And there were just, anyway, so that's when the acting bug really, I'm like, I love this too. I really love this. And then I started doing legit theaters in Chicago, working with other theaters. And then I knew that was it. This is what I need to do. Getting a script was fun, exciting. What am I going to do with this? And I was awful, but then I could feel myself getting better.
Yeah.
Taking classes and learning. So then eventually we did a show in Chicago called Stumpy's Gang that had puppets and blood and a big vagina puppet that and there was blood, and it was lunacy that went off the charts with the fans. They started showing up. They were lining up. We were selling out every show.
Wow.
I began the show eating 5 Twinkies on stage. The whole thing was, I die at the end. I throw myself into an incinerator. I mean, it was crazy. And it always, actors in Chicago, and I would imagine other cities, are always like, oh, you hear about pilot season in LA, which doesn't really exist anymore, but it did then. And just LA is where it's all happening. And so we were those people talking about it. And then we just said, what if we brought this show to LA? Could we make something happen? And I mean, a lot of stuff happened before that, but we made it happen, and we brought it to LA. We opened in September of 94. The plan was to run it through October.
Uh-huh.
And I'd said to all my buddies back in Chicago, I'm going to come home, and then I'm going to go back for that pilot season I keep hearing about, January, February, and March, and then I'll be back home for good. And as they'll say to me today, we knew you were never coming back. Because what happened was I got here, the show opened. Again, the people came out. We ran until February of the following year. We just kept extending. And because of that, like when I first got here, I did all the mailings to get agents and stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody gave a crap. No one gave. They tossed it. Again, old school. You got the headshots. You got the message. You got the envelope.
Mail it out.
You're mailing it out. You're paying for mailing lists. It's all crazy. But then Stumpy's opens. It was called Stumpy's Gang, and it opens to pretty crazy reviews. And now agents are coming to see it because people are like, you got to go see it. And actually, what I found out later, a lot of agents' assistants, the young folks, were coming to see it.
So the word of mouth.
Word of mouth. They said to their people, you got to go see this. And this guy's nuts. This guy playing this Frank Boobman, that's a character I played. You got to see what he's doing on that stage. And they did. And it went from me begging for someone to return a letter that I sent, or you could do cold walk-ins some days. They wouldn't even barely look at you. To me getting calls. Hey, we'd like to set up a meeting. Wow.
Life-changing.
Life-changing. And it did. And so I'll never forget, because since the show was called Stumpy's Gang, the agency I went with, they said, they called, we had met. Then they called me, I think the same day, and said, we would like you to be a part of our gang. Like, I thought that was very sweet. So and that changed everything. I was with them for 17 years. So then I was fully in. Then it was the real deal. And I've been very blessed. I've been here. It'll be 30 years in August. And thankfully, and believe me, it wasn't all easy, but I've never had to do anything other than be an actor to pay my bills. Some years barely got by. Thankfully, when you do work, they pay you decently. Mm-hmm. And so that helps the times when you're not working.
Sure.
And then it opened up where I was getting a lot of guest spots and one thing led to, and then of course Parks changed everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Because when you land on a series, especially one that goes for 7 seasons, that's a game changer. Financially, career-wise, your recognizability. That's a word, right?
I think so.
I think it's a word, yeah.
English.
It's English, yeah. Oh, English is so tough. But so, yeah. And people now, I'm 62 years old. Oh, do you ever think about retiring? Not a second in my life. Now, maybe a health issue could make me have to stop. That would happen, I guess. Could happen. But as far as loving what I do, I couldn't love it more. Yeah. I couldn't love it more. So there's no thought of retiring or any of that.
It shows how much you enjoy talking about it and telling the story, from transferring from Loyola to the Center for Broadcasting or Radio.
Midwest Broadcast School or Academy, I'm not sure. Sorry.
They're still around because I hear stuff on the radio. I don't know. But telling that all the way through how you got here to LA and the agents and getting Parks and Rec. it is really cool to see the joy when people talk about doing what they love and living that dream when they find the
It's a
passion.
gift, and I'm grateful for it. It's a gift. I have friends who attorneys and this and that, and they have wonderful lives, and their kids are going to nice schools. They don't love what they do.
Yeah, I hate it.
And I can't imagine waking up day after day. And I know it's weird because I think most people have this.
Yeah.
You wake up like, oh God, here I go again. First of all, when you're an actor, it's never normally the same. Like I just shot something recently and I'm laying in a pool of blood. Like how fun is that? Like I have to do a big fall where, and they do it safe. There's
That was
padding.
the picture you put up yesterday on Instagram.
I put up
think.
a picture from that. Yeah. But I'm just saying, it's all different. I'll never forget, there was a day on Parks and Rec where in one day, I'm in a limo shooting a scene with Amy Poehler. We get out of the limo and then I'm being lifted by centaurs through the town, and then I go into a hot air balloon. What fucking job? What job does that other than this crazy world of acting?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's incredible.
And why wouldn't I love that?
No, I agree with you 1,000%, and I'm not in the same, field of you, but I'm was a reporter, did TV and doing the podcast now, but like when you wake up and have that passion, feel it fuels you. And look, I'm not making great money right now. I'm doing the best I can, but I see the effect it has, and I love what I'm doing. And I want to get into behind, let's talk about Parks and Rec. Sure, I want to get to that in a sec.
Yeah.
But your backstory between moving here, the show taking off, the show you guys were doing, and getting signed and starting to see those opportunities, guest spots. But like you said, your 30s were really, really tough for you. Was that right when you moved to LA?
I moved here. I was 32 years old, 1990. So should I just tell you what happened to me?
I'd love to hear it.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what happened to me. So I get here again, 94. We do the show. It does well. I get representation. My first pilot season that I kept hearing about, I land within 24 hours. I landed a film and a pilot.
Wow.
Crazy. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, my God, I should have been here years ago. And, but no, things happen how they're supposed to happen. And also, that didn't continue on that path. There was ups and downs.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was all pretty amazing. So I'm kind of feeling good. So life's going on. The pilot, of course, didn't get picked up. That's the nature of pilots, but you made a nice little chunk of change. The film, it was that monkey movie with Matt LeBlanc and a monkey playing baseball. It was silly, but I had a great time. So what are you going to do? So then things are good. I'm auditioning and I'm getting some stuff, not getting other stuff. And then I can tell you exactly what happened. 1996. So I've been here 2 years, and I was in my apartment, and there was some excitement going on because I had auditioned for a remake of the movie Harvey, which is an old Jimmy Stewart film with an invisible rabbit. Mm-hmm. It's a classic. If anyone's out there who likes old black and whites, take a look. Well, this one's going to be remade with Harry Anderson, was a great guy. Some people might know him from Night Court. He was the judge, as well as Dave's World, and he has since passed away. Heartbreaking. And he was a guy who didn't love acting so much. He gave it up. He was a magician at heart, and he opened up a magic shop in New Orleans. So that's how he lived his last years, which I love.
Yeah,
I love that. But anyway, so they're going to do. He's going to be the lead role, and Swoosie Kurtz is in it, and Leslie Nielsen is in it. And Jonathan Banks is in it. And I audition thinking, well, this probably won't go great. They've got some big names. I'm absolutely nobody at this point. And we get the call that I'm the director's choice and the producers. But CBS, who's paying for this, doesn't know who the hell I am, and they don't want me. And the producer and the director said, okay, but we think he's our guy. We've auditioned everybody. He's our guy. And they said, okay, we'll meet with them. So I had this big meeting that I was going to have with CBS. And I've said this before. It was the greatest acting challenge I ever had because this is the day everything fell apart. So my appointment's at 2:00. 11 o'clock that morning, I'm still in the apartment. I'm nervous because, it's the big deal. They could say no. And ultimately, they're the ones paying. So even though the writer and the director and producer want me, it doesn't mean anything if CBS goes, no, we're not doing it. So whatever. So I'm laying on my couch because in my head, I'm like, okay, at 12 o'clock, I'm going to take my shower. It's the whole thing. And watching television. And all I can say is a wave. That's what I refer to it as. A wave of sadness, a wave of heavy just encompassed me out of nowhere. And I've never had this in my life. I don't know what this is, but I'm laying there. And I mean, from 1 second, fine, to the next minute, oh my God, what is happening to me? So then, of course, I go into a bit of a panic mode. My sister's a nurse. I get her on the phone. I said, I don't know what's going on. Here's what just happened. She goes, it sounds to me like it's your sugar. Not that I'm diabetic, but we have diabetes in the family.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm becoming diabetic. She goes, you need to get some orange juice, whatever. I said, okay, I can make that happen. Right next to where I live, there was a little market. I go in. It does nothing. Nothing does nothing. Well, now by, I don't know, 1 o'clock, I have to leave around 1:15. I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't want to leave. I'm almost afraid to leave. Like, everything is awful. I've gone from everything is great hours earlier to everything is awful, and nothing has happened. Nothing other than I'm nervous about the meeting.
Right.
But I've been nervous about meetings before.
Yeah.
Every audition, you're nervous. It's the nature of the business. I go to that meeting, and like I said, the greatest acting I've ever done because I came off really well, and I got that job. And they said I was their guy. So I come home that night. I call my sister again. She goes, you got to get to a doctor. So I go to a medical doctor, and they do it all because I told him what's going on. And he's checking all the blood work, and they did a chest x-ray and everything. And because it was getting worse. There was nothing, it wasn't getting better. Because I thought maybe the next day I'll wake up and everything will be okay. Like that was just some weird anomaly. And
next day I'm good.
Next day's good. That was a weird thing. And I'll tell a story about that. Was so weird. No, the next day was worse. And so I go to the doctors, at the time SAG doctors. They do all this tests. And that takes about a week to get everything back. And nothing is better. I remember every day I'd wake up, I'd put my feet on the floor, sit on the bed and think, okay, how am I today? Fuck. Oh, fuck, it's still there. It was heavy. I could feel this. I could feel it. So anyway, he calls me in. The doctor goes, well, we're going to go over everything with you. And I'm waiting. He's going to tell me I've got some horrible something and whatever. And part of me wants him to.
So
because now let's figure this shit out and you give me what I need. And he goes over everything. And he goes, so what I'm basically saying is you're fine. I said, I can't be. I said, I've told you what I've been through. I'm not fine. He goes, you're fine physically. He goes, you need to see a therapist. I got to tell you, Brandon, I'm embarrassed to say this. That never dawned on me. It never dawned on me. What are you talking about? I need to see a therapist. Okay, he can't help me. And again, this is I was saying earlier. I kept thinking, I can't live like this. I can't. And now what's happening is, as I've learned the term later, panic attacks. So I went from this horrible sadness to hardcore flop sweating panic attacks, which at first you think you're a fat guy. I'm having a heart attack. So where am I? I'm back at the ER because I'm having a heart attack. Well, of course I wasn't. Yeah. But I learned all this as time went on. And, for me, a perfect day, and it still kind of is, a really wonderful day for me is wake up, have a nice breakfast, go to a movie. Like, I love movies. I could go to a movie. I could go, and I love, and I stream like everybody else, but I love a movie theater. Yeah. I still do. And I lived near Grauman's, Grauman's Chinese. So I'd be like, like on a good day, I'm just going to go and watch a fun movie at Grauman's, and I'm in Hollywood. I'm on Hollywood Boulevard. Oh my God, I'm living the dream, even though I'm not, I'd like to be on a series or something. But none of that cheered me up. The thought of it was disgusting. The thought of getting out, having to get up and go to that theater, couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I made an appointment with a therapist. And there's levels of therapy, which I learned all this, didn't know it at the time. So again, you'll know more of this than it. Who can't prescribe?
A psychiatrist can prescribe.
Right.
I don't know. I thought a psychologist could too, but there's also people that help them, like nurse practitioners in a mental health field that can't. Your primary care doctor can, but they're most times going to recommend you go talk to a therapist
which is
or a
what they
psychiatrist.
did.
Yeah.
And so, but she couldn't recommend. She could recommend. She couldn't write a prescription.
Huh.
So I don't know what that's called.
Yeah.
But then she hooked me up with, because she said, I think you need to see this doctor. So I started going to her. And like everybody, I wanted a quick fix. Well, that wasn't to be.
Right.
There is no quick fix. As I've learned, there's chemical imbalances. There's all sorts of things that are going on. And one of the things she felt in her talking with me, she said I hadn't dealt with the loss of my father. Now, I said to her, you're wrong. I've cried my ass off. I think you're wrong. She goes, it's not just about that. Again, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because believe me, I'm the guy to this day. I could be taking a shower, and if I go down memory lane about either one of my parents, I could be crying in the shower. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a thing wrong with that.
Nope,
I think
not
it's
at all.
wow. I love them so much. It's funny. The other day, I said to my sister, we were texting back and forth. She goes, "Oh, can I give you a call?" I said, I'm wrapping up this book that I'm doing. And I said, I'm on the chapter about mom dying. I said, I'm sitting in the backyard writing and crying. And she goes, Mom deserves those tears. And she's right. She did deserve those tears. But so anything, so I'm a crier in general. Like I'm terrible with goodbyes. I'm just one of those guys. So I thought she was absolutely wrong because, there were tears. There was, wow. But then when you start really digging in deep, yes, you dealt with it. You cried, but did you deal with what maybe wasn't said? What maybe expectations weren't met on either side? Did we ever have closure on this or on that?
Yeah.
And there were things we did not. And there were regrets I had that I didn't know I had until we started talking it out. And so she said, I think that's where a lot of this is coming from. And so then she hooked me up with this doctor, the psychiatrist, who put me on Zoloft. But what's, and to this day, I think it's still the case, these antidepressants, they don't kick in. It's not like I take an antibiotic and I start healing like this.
Yeah.
These damn things, I think he said 3 to 4 weeks. I'm like, and again,
I got to get through tomorrow.
And again, never planning suicide. Never, ever did I think, here's what I have to do to get, but every day, I can't live like this. I can't live, this can't continue.
Well, if I can dig into that feeling,
feel
because
great.
that's when you feel like you can't live anymore like this, I think, even if you don't have a plan.
It's the ideology, I would imagine.
It's a suicidal ideology. Yes,
Yeah.
I've had it a lot, and it's scary.
Scary.
And you're in that hole, and I'm curious, did you think it was never going to end?
Yeah, oh, God, yes. So, yes, because I thought it was going to be over in a couple of days. I thought I had some weird little thing that happened and I'm going to be fine. And as the months are going on and I'm not fine, wow, I am screwed. And now the panic attacks are coming in and I'm having them hit in front of people. But I don't want people to know that this is what's happened. Though, the one thing I did learn from my first trip to the ER, it is a panic attack.
Yeah.
It is not a heart attack. You will get through it. You just have to get through it. And so that did help me. But I remember being in a waiting room for an audition once thinking, I can't stay here. I'm literally starting to flop sweat. And this was all it just seemed like everything was piling on. And then you take your brain to the worst case scenario. I'm in LA. I'm finally here. Things are happening. And now it's all crashing. Because remember, I booked this gig. Now I got to go to Vancouver for 5 weeks and shoot this film. I'm dealing with depression and panic attacks and fear. I'm the newbie. The network didn't want you. Didn't even want. I mean, ultimately they ended up wanting me, but they didn't want me. Who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
We got Leslie Nielsen and Swoozie Kurtz, Jim O'Hare. What are we doing? Go get whatever B lister they can get. So I felt a lot of pressure about that. And I want to do a good job. And so I was having all sorts of panic attacks in Vancouver. Told none of the other actors. I didn't want anyone to be involved in this. I remember Robert Wisden, I believe was his name, was an incredible Canadian actor. And because we had hit it off from the very beginning. We're laughing. We'd be in each other's trailers at lunch and laughing. And I remember having a full conversation with him, and I don't think he knew, and me thinking, I need to jump out of my skin right now. He has to leave here. He has to leave right now. But I didn't make him leave. I got through it. But this went on for a long time.
Yeah.
Months and months and months. And as far as panic attacks go, what helped me, and this is going to sound silly, there's a radio station in LA called KFI, listening to it one night driving home from somewhere, and there was a therapist on talking about panic attacks. And this has helped me ever since. She just said, you just tell yourself, you know what this is. You know that it isn't harmful, and you just you breathe.
Yep.
And you talk to yourself. And I will tell you, that was a game changer for me. I wish my therapist had said that. She never said anything like that. So I will say, after 3 to 4 weeks, the Zoloft definitely started helping. It definitely took the edge.
Yeah.
Things weren't so hard. They were softer, but it was still there.
Mm-hmm.
It was still there. And again, every day waking up, every day, maybe today's better. Maybe today's better. And then once the Zoloft kicked in, oh, today might be better. Today might be better.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, today is better. Wow, today's better. And then as more time went on, I'd say, I mean, this wasn't I'm going to say 2 years.
Of this.
Never as intense as it was the first 6 months.
Yeah.
It was all getting better after that. But I would say 2 years before I could go, I'm back.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm back, baby. I'm back. Let's go to the movies. Let's go eat. Let's do all the stuff.
Yeah.
Not that I wasn't already doing some of that, but I mean,
Right.
where I was 100% back.
Well, I don't think I was happy being myself until a year and a half ago. My entire life.
Your entire life. That's hard.
And
dude.
that's
hard.
it was. I was trying to find happiness from relationships, jobs, friendships.
Right, because you think something out there's got to make this better.
Right, but if you don't find it inside,
Yeah.
you're never going to find it. And for you mentioned those 6 months. Is there a rock bottom night or time after an audition or something where it was this panic attack, this thought of not wanting to be here right now is like, fuck, man, this is the worst.
Sitting there, I had friends. We still do it. It's so stupid. We'll watch terrible movies and just mock and say stupid shit and just make each other laugh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, just terrible old movies or new movie, whatever it is. And we'll still do that sometimes. And so I had people over because I had one friend who knew what I was going through because, and I'm embarrassed to say this now, there was shame. There was shame. God forbid I could have a mental illness. And I remember my mother, and believe me, the greatest woman to walk the planet, and of course my opinion as one of her kids, say to me, Jimmy, we don't have that in our family. Yep. So there was shame.
Mm-hmm.
There was embarrassment.
Yep.
Because I told her what was going on. Because I didn't tell her at first, I didn't want to scare her because I thought it was medical. But when we pieced it all together and medical's been ruled out, and I'm now at a therapist and a psychiatrist for meds, I finally said, here's what's going on. And she goes, Jimmy, we don't have that in our family. And you could tell she did not like this.
Yeah.
So, and of course, now I would say to her, if I could go back, oh, we do have it in our family. People don't talk about it.
Right.
We have it in our family. And when you look back now, when we tell stories, yes, because every family has it.
Mm-hmm.
Mental illness is sadly very popular.
Yeah.
It's very popular.
Well, and the stigma you're talking about is very, very real.
Oh, yes. I think less now.
Oh, yeah. It's
I
getting
hope less
way
now,
better.
But it's still out there. But here's what happened to me. And this will be interesting if this happened to you at all or people listening if they went through this. So once I did, because it was a big secret. But after a while, I started, again, I had one buddy who knew, and then my sister who was a nurse absolutely knew, and then eventually told my mother who was not thrilled.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't mad at me or anything. She was just very curt. Well, Jimmy, we don't have that in our family. Okay, so we're not going to talk about this, apparently. Right. So anyway, I had another friend who started having panic attacks. And I thought I should talk to him and say, just so you know, I know exactly what you're going through. But here's what I'm asking. When I would talk about it, I could scare myself almost into having a panic attack, almost as if I'm PTSD. Yeah. I don't know if that's too dramatic, probably too dramatic, but
no, it's valid.
I'd be talking and then I think, oh, wow. And I could feel my heart like starting to, a little, it's racing a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the beads above your lip, the beads of sweat. And I would have to really, but at this point I've learned how to talk myself down.
Yeah.
Which is, again, one of the greatest things I've ever learned. So then I would continue. But did that happen to you at all?
I think in the beginning it did. I also didn't think therapy or mental health was real my entire life because we didn't talk about it. I was taught to rub dirt on it. Don't be a bitch. Don't be emotional.
Yes.
I remember one of the most game-changing moments of my life was sitting in this mental health hospital. And you meet with your therapist, psychiatrist, maybe for 10% of the time, but 90% of it is in a classroom with 20 people, 25 people look around, every race, color, background, gay, straight, from Ohio, from California, wherever. Yeah. We all just have one thing in common. We are alone. We don't know how to live. Yeah. We need help. And I said after day 2 or 3 of not opening up, the teacher of this session, who's a therapist, goes, "Why aren't you opening up, Brandon?" And I said, I don't know. I've always been super emotional. I just always been a bitch. I don't want to be a bitch. And she stopped me right there. She goes, "That's the problem. Not with just mental health, but specifically men's mental health."
Of course, because we're macho, God forbid.
Right. And so that's what completely changed it for me. It didn't help right away, like all the way, but it gave me the mindset of, oh, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to open up. So back to your original question, for years and years and years, draining in alcohol, I might mention it to a couple people, but then it would just make me want to drink more or black out or go sit on that bridge or write this goodbye letter. And it's like, you have to learn the tools and resources which you had done through therapy, through, I'm sure talking about it more and more with friends and family.
Because now I can talk about it all day long and there's no fear of this is going to lead to anything other than hopefully help somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah. But at first that wasn't the case.
That's exactly why I started the show. I think I've told my story. My whole life story besides my ex-girlfriend's name is on the internet. So you can find everything about me.
Okay, everybody, just so you know, I'm going to get it out of them and I'm going to post it. Keep an eye on my Insta.
Awesome. She just got married like a month ago. So that'll be great timing.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, let's go into a therapy session on that, huh?
Yikes.
Joke backfired. But no, it's some days it gets to me. Most days it doesn't. So there'll be a couple times that I'm on stage at an event in a theater or at a college, and someone tells me their story about how they lost their brother and how he had gone through the same thing as me, literally word for word, the relationship, the alcoholism, the suicidal thoughts. And they came because they saw themselves and they saw their brother and me and they need help. They want to make sure no one else in their family goes through that. That's when it hits me the most. And so learning to be comfortable unpacking that and talking about that, and back to, your therapy and the things that you went through, it seemed like getting comfortable to that point now is different. But back then when you first started peeling back the curtain, ripping off the Band-Aid, however you want to say it, losing your father, and the things that weren't said, were said, your relationship towards the end of his life, is that what caused the pain and the thought of not wanting to deal with this?
To be honest, they certainly were leaning that way, the therapist, but I also believe, yes, I'm sure. I have no doubt that was part of it. But I also believe in a chemical imbalance.
Yeah.
And so is it a combo? Did one trigger the other?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that answer. I don't know, because the meds helped.
Yeah.
And then, of course, then you slowly wean off and then the meds are gone. And I haven't been in therapy. And believe me, I'd go tomorrow if I had to or felt I need to. I couldn't be more pro-therapy if my life depended on it. But I haven't been in many years because I do feel we talked the hell out of it for a long time.
Well, this can count as a therapy session.
This is a therapy session. No, but I mean, a lot of tears in the room. And, my therapist was the type who did the, and again, I don't know what's right or wrong, but this was how she did it. I had conversations with my father in that room as if he were still there. And I don't know, that was her way to do it. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I don't know. Ultimately, I left there feeling better. And so I was grateful for that. But I haven't actually been in therapy in years.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
now that I think about it, I probably should get a tune-up, right? Like, I'm
well, yeah,
probably
it's like your
nuts.
car every 10,000 miles, every 5,000 miles,
You gotta
whatever
get a
it
little
is.
something, yeah.
The stigma around men's mental health is real, and you've heard both Jim and I talk about it throughout this interview. It's something that all of us have dealt with either at home, at school, playing sports, or just in our everyday life. You're supposed to not show emotions if you're a man. If you're vulnerable, you're weak. But that's just not the case. We have to talk about how we are feeling and take better care of our mental health. And that's why I want to tell you about man therapy. For all the men out there that are worried about what people think about you, if you open up, if you peel back the curtain, if you be vulnerable, who cares? We have to be in touch with our emotions. And that's why I want you to go to mantherapy.org today and take their 18-point head inspection. It's a quick 2-minute test that just asks you basic questions about your everyday life, at home, at work, how you're feeling, that can help give you an answer on how to best take care of your mental health with useful tools, tips, and resources. Once again, go to mantherapy.org for all the men out there to best take care of your mental health. Suicide can be tough to talk about, and that's why the Happiness Project is helping us break the stigma. After losing their classmate Nick, his friends knew they had to do something to help save lives. So, the Happiness Project was born, a clothing brand to raise awareness for mental health and suicide prevention with t-shirts, hoodies, and more to start a conversation and let people know they are not alone. And to learn more, follow @Happiness Project on social media and use the code MENTALGAME for 15% off your first order at happinessproject.com. The thing is, the answer is different for everyone. What works for me or what works for you might not work for the person listening. And so, like, I don't go to therapy as much as I used to, but I'm still on the medication.
Are you in the program, though? Do you go to meetings? And
I don't go to meetings. You know, I was able to get sober, and this is a kind of random story, but we were talking about Theo Vaughn earlier. He talked about how he was asked why he got sober. And he said, because I'm worried if I'm not sober that I won't be here tomorrow for this interview or be at this show this weekend. And I had quit my job and I had already got out of the hospital and I had this podcast that I started. And I said, look, I have everything right here. It's either make or break. And so for me, I heard him say that. It was the first time someone explained it to me that it made sense.
Yeah.
And that's why telling your story is powerful because you never know who it's going to help. But I just can't control. He talked about one thing leading to the other. It's like, look, I can't be California sober because if I have a shitty Tuesday, I'll smoke weed and then I'll go drink and then I'll just be back to square one.
One thing leads to the other.
Yeah. And so it was really powerful hearing it, kind of that way.
I've never been a big drinker, just haven't. I don't. I told you earlier, my obsession is Diet Coke. I have one sitting right next to me as we speak. So I've never been a hardcore drinker, but I've certainly had nights where I've been overserved, and it sucks the next day. So I know what he's saying. So the next day, say you have a big interview, or say you're in front of a camera, or whatever the hell's going on. That's got to be tough to come back from.
I did it for 8 years where I would be, this is the thing. You might watch a game or watch Sports Center and you see, oh, they must have a great life. It's perfect. You're watching them at fucking midnight.
Yeah.
Every weekend. So that means I'm going out from midnight to 3 a.m. And so while I might get to do some cool things and hang out with some players or be at certain clubs or bars, but I'm covering up the pain by drinking, and then I'm on 4 hours of sleep on the sideline at 8 a.m. for an NFL Sunday. It's like you can't do that. It's not sustainable. So I think for me, I want to go to AA. I'm not going to say who it is, but I had a coach's wife from the NFL reach out to me after I told my story, and she said that she struggled with the same things, randomly sent me a message. If you want to go to AA with me, you can come. And I was trying to figure it out, and it just timing didn't work out. But now that I'm out here in LA, I want to go just because I do know it helps people. I don't think I'll go back, but I have to have NA beer here now because I have those urges, or I have a shitty day. I have to have something.
So what do you do when you say you have to have a beer?
I don't have to, but it helps because to have.
But can you call yourself sober if you're having a beer?
No, it's a non-alcoholic beer.
Oh, a non-alcoholic? Of course, yes. I forget that exists.
I thought that was the dumbest thing in the world in the beginning, and then I started having them just in the summer. It's hot.
Yeah.
Want to have a beer? I'm a big boater.
Yeah.
Can't go boating without people partying, getting drunk,
Uh-huh.
going to sporting events. So like it just helps me. But the healthy coping mechanisms I use are just listening to music, going for a walk, driving around sober,
Yeah.
just listening to music. Those are the things, talking with somebody. It just, you find the healthy tools. And for you, you mentioned your therapist gave you some. I'm sure you've discovered other ones, even though you're not going to therapy
Yeah.
for the time being. What are some of those healthy coping mechanisms that helped you get out of that hole in your 30s and end up getting you to turn the corner?
Well, it's so weird. I told you I've always loved television, big television fan, and I can have a shitty day and be worked up. I'm not going to reach for a beer. I'm just not in general. I'm sure people would say food is an addiction for me.
Yeah.
I would certainly imagine that. I've always been a big guy, but I can put on. This is going to sound sad for those listening, and I don't have to watch. It just needs to be in the background. Old episodes of Dick Van Dyke, old episodes of The Golden Girls, old episodes of Mary Tyler Moore. I find them so comforting, so incredibly comforting. And again, I've seen every episode 1,000 times. There's nothing I'm going to see that is new. That it doesn't matter. I know the jokes. I can repeat before they even say the lines. But that relaxes me. And in the meantime, I could be reading. I could be writing something. I could be doing, Wordle or whatever the hell. That is what can calm me down. And not to jump into a park story, but so many people have come up to me at different events, fans of the show, who will say, it's my comfort show. And what I love about that is I, through some miracle, ended up on a show that gives that to other people because I know how important that is to me. So I love that. I couldn't love that more, that somehow Parks has become people's show. They don't need to, they've seen it 100 times. It's just in the background and they know the characters and they love them. And it's a very uplifting show. And it calms them. And I love that.
It's special. And I think about, like, for me, I don't know why I get kind of emotional thinking of it, but it's like I listen to my favorite artist. And the reason why your favorite artists write those songs is because they go through the same things as you. And so those things comfort me. Even if it's like just listening to the same song all day, I'm weird and I do it.
Yes.
It helps you through those moments. And you mentioned Parks, like that moment when you get that job, now that I know we're all over the place.
Yeah, that's how I talk in general. I'm all over the place.
It's okay, but I want to get into Parks because it is a life-changing moment for you.
Yeah.
What point in that, was it the pilot, the first season, hearing how people reacted? Like, when did you know that was like it?
We didn't. We didn't for a long. Certainly, I didn't, because I wasn't even hired as a series regular. I wasn't even hired. There wasn't even a role for me, kind of.
Well, you auditioned.
I auditioned for Ron Swanson,
the
part that Nick Offerman brilliantly, literally capital letters on brilliantly, played Ron Swanson. And ultimately, and you find out in this book, because I interviewed all the show creators and everything.
Yeah.
They loved him from day one. It was always pretty much his job, as it should have been. I mean, I can't even imagine. But I did something in that room that they enjoyed, and my agents called me a couple weeks later and said, listen, you know that, because at the time when I was involved at the beginning, it was called the Untitled Amy Poehler Project. It wasn't called Parks and Recreation.
Right.
So she goes, you know that show you auditioned for? I said, yeah. She goes, they want you to come in and read for a character named Jerry. Okay, why wouldn't I? And I get to the audition. And, like I mentioned many times, I'm a big guy. I generally know who I'm going to be auditioning against, especially things are different now with self-tapes and everything. But in those days, if you were well-known in the guest spot community or in, the casting directors knew you. They knew you did good work and they could, because casting directors, they bring you in, they want to look good. They don't want to bring in some shitty actor who really can't do it.
Yeah.
Because then they look foolish in front of these producers who are paying them money to bring them in good talent. So normally I show up and I know a lot of the same guys. This time I didn't know anybody. It was everybody. Tall, short, fat, skinny, black, white, Indian. Like, it was all over the place. I'm like, oh, damn, they don't know what they want. Which, kind of good, kind of bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, I went into the audition, and I had already met them at the Ron's, when I auditioned for Ron Swanson, so I knew them, and we were chatting a little. And I was telling Greg Daniels, one of the co-creators of the show, he had created The Office, the American version, and I knew Carell in Chicago, and the last voice job I did in Chicago was with Steve. So it's always nice to have a little something to chat about, like someone we mutually know and love. I mean, Steve's a great guy.
Sure.
And anyway, so it's just so funny because now I just found this all out in making this book happen. They knew that day I was their guy. I didn't know that. I'm still waiting to hear. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, so they hire me, but only as not a series regular. We'll see what's going to happen. And then my agents at the time were, and I don't blame them at all. As a matter of fact, they were trying to have my back. They said, Jim, we don't know what this is. And this sounds a little bit like background work, because they were telling them he's going to be sitting at a desk. We don't know what this is. Everyone was being very upfront. We have these 6 main characters. That's our show. But we do have to fill out the office, but we don't know what that means. And my agents were like, you have a resume. You are not doing background work.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with background work, but at some point you don't do it any longer.
Yep.
And I'd been doing major guest spots at this point. Major guest spots, some films and all this stuff. But for me, Brandon, there was not a second of hesitation, because I said to them, thank you, I get where you're coming from. But look what happened to those background people on The Office, Kevin and Phyllis and Stanley and Oscar.
I had Kate Flannery on the show. She was one of my first guests.
Meredith.
Yeah.
My God, Kate is one of my girls. I love Kate. We were just almost did a gig together recently. It didn't happen. But I love Kate. And you know, was her boyfriend here with her?
No, we did.
Chris is the greatest.
Yeah, I didn't get to meet him, but they met on the set, too.
Yes, and he was our photographer, too, for
that's
Parks.
Incredible.
He was the photographer on The Office for NBC. That's how they met. And then he came to Parks, and he was our photographer.
So you saw the success of The Office cast,
and I'm like,
as a blueprint.
Right. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But my God, if what happened to them were to happen to me, how could I not take that gamble? And it did. It fully happened to me. And so anyway, I started. But Retta, who plays Donna on the show, we were in the same boat, and we became lifelong buddies almost day one. Just because I think neither one of us knew exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
Like, we have these major actors here; they're the regular ones. Even Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt was not hired to be a series regular. He was hired for 6 episodes. That was it.
Wow.
He told me new stuff in the book that I never knew, which is just amazing. It turns out Mike Schur, who also co-created it with Greg, was like, how is this guy not already on a series? We got to keep him. So they did. And that's what they did with me and Retta. So then we became series regulars. But every year we battled ratings, and if we're going to be canceled and everything. But I kind of, in season, I'm going to say 3, it could be 4, we were getting crazy press. Like, I think it was Time Magazine called us one of the shows of the century. I'm like, what? Like, wow, that's kind of crazy stuff. And that's when I think it sunk in. This is good. This is going to be good. And the amazing thing is, shows come and go. I've been on look me up on IMDb. I've been on 1,000 of them. They come and go. You never hear from them again. That is what happens. But Parks, we are still out there. We're on different channels during the day. We're on Peacock. You can still see us. It's the gift that keeps on giving. It just has been amazing. And the best part of it is the cast. Because people go, you guys look like you really enjoyed each other. We still have this text chain called the Parks Family Text. I could pull out my phone right now. Just last week, it was all about, well, I can't actually tell you what it was all about, but it was funny. Yeah. And somebody saw somebody at something. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. And
now I want you to pull out your phone.
I'll show you when we're off.
Okay.
But anyway, we're still tight. This is still a tight-knit group because the love that people see is what was happening backstage. Amy always said it was lightning in a bottle. Because, again, you go on shows, you're meeting people for the first time mostly. You don't know them. Like in our case, Amy and Rashida knew each other, so that was great.
Sure.
Because they were going to be big buddies on the show. Nick knew Amy, but they weren't, like, tight or anything. Yeah. Aziz was the newbie. No, Aubrey, she was a page at NBC when
she got
Leslie, Amy was on SNL.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean, this is all craziness. But it just gelled.
Yeah.
It just came together. And then when Adam Scott and Rob Lowe came in, it was just the icing. It was the icing on the cake. And we did 7 seasons. And it's, there was fear by me and others. Are you worried after this, you won't be able to do anything else because you'll be Jerry. You're just Jerry the rest of your
or
life.
Gary or Larry.
Or Gary or Larry or Terry, whatever they want to call me. And I said, if it happens, there's worse things in the world. It paid my bills and kind of set me up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay. If no one else wants to hire me again, which would have sucked. But thankfully, it didn't happen by any stretch. I work, thankfully, all the time, and I've done dramatic roles. Though, I mean, you know, this business, you're always fighting. I'm still the fat, funny guy in their minds, which is okay. Again, I enjoy doing comedy. It's probably my favorite. But I do love getting my teeth into a big dramatic role. I have a film coming up that I was telling you we're going to shoot in Barcelona. There's not a funny thing in it. I love that challenge.
Yep.
So it's been a blessing.
Is there a moment or a memory that you can point of like, that's the moment? I'll give you Kate's when she talks about how was it Phyllis dressed up as Santa when Michael was the original Santa?
Yeah.
She told me that was the funniest fucking scene they've ever done. It took them a million takes. They would have to cut different things. Like that's the one singular. It's so hard to pick a favorite memory, but she remembers that's when they broke the most. Is there a favorite memory or some moment that
as Chris Traeger, for those fans of the show would know, literally, he says that all the time, I literally have 1,000. But some, if I had to, you know, my favorite scenes were whenever we were in the conference room together, because it was all of us.
Yeah.
And when those cameras were off, it was just bullshit and laughing and joking, telling stories. And I love that. And that's when I was like, when that was first started happening, I thought, I'm really a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And also in season 2, Morgan Sackett was our line producer. As people are probably sick of me saying, the greatest line producer who's ever walked the planet. And I have other friends who are line producers. They're wonderful. But Morgan's, and now he's not even a line producer. He's an exec producer on also Hacks and all sorts of stuff. And he eventually became an exec producer on Parks. But he's brilliant at what he does. Line producer, for those who don't know, they're handling the money. They're handling everything. They're handling to make sure it all comes together and sets and locations. It's a big job.
Yeah.
And he was the best at it. And one day we were shooting an episode, I forget which one it was, but we were on location, and he came up to me and he goes, I just wanted to let you know, they're writing you a story. I go, my own? He goes, well, yeah, you'll be the A story. Because there's ABC generally, sometimes AB. And I wasn't even a series regular then. There had been talk, but I was not signed on the dotted line. Mm. But in my head, they're not giving a guy who's going to be out of here next week an A story. Mm-hmm. They're just not doing it. So I can picture standing here, him telling me. And as a typical actor, I went from euphoria to, yes, to, oh shit, the A story. Oh shit, that's so much pressure.
I got to ace this. It's the biggest moment of my life.
If I don't pull this off, I'm fucked. You know what I mean? Like, but that's any actor. Well, I shouldn't say any, but that's most actors everywhere.
Yeah.
We go from the high of the booking,
the moment,
to the low of the panic. Can I pull it off?
Oh shit! Yeah,
that is. I tell a story in the book. I won't tell it now because it's too detailed. But I did a Soderbergh film that I had so convinced myself a mistake had been made in my hiring because, again, insecure actors. That how could Soderbergh want me in his film? Because we're idiots. We're idiots and we're insecure. And I just love every damn day of it. I don't know. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
Well, you can tell the joy off your face when talking about Parks. You're talking about your career. I have to say, my favorite TV behind-the-scenes moment.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Chris Pratt with Kim Kardashian of the Comeback Story has to be the greatest ad-lib in TV history.
And here's what I'll say. Yes, to all of that. But I'll also say that went on every day, all day.
Yeah.
If you're in a scene with Pratt and Offerman, and Adam is so damn funny. Aziz, of course, and Rob. Whenever the guys, because, we're filthier than the girls. We just are. Not proud of it, but it is what it is. That kind of shit went on all day. But that day, because people will show it to me all the time. I lived it. I was there. Yeah. And
your belly laugh is iconic
because
on that.
It's that moment of pause of, what did I just hear? Like, that's what, Nick and I take a moment. Like,
yeah.
Huh? And then, of course, craziness. But my favorite is then they cut to Amy and Rashida, who are like, these stupid boys. These stupid boys. I just hate them.
Seabiscuit.
They're like, oh, and they goes, well, Kardashians. Well, not really. He goes, yeah, I heard you got to come on her back. That, I don't know. And then Retta, the tag. Well, that's going to make the rap party.
Oh.
Yeah, and it did. Oh, believe me, it did.
I get lost on YouTube watching,
All
your
the
shows,
outtakes.
outtakes,
Office,
bloopers, same thing with The Office,
yes,
any
me
show.
too. I'm a
That
huge
is-
Office fan too, and because I started watching The Office because of Carell, because like, oh my god, a Chicago guy's got his own damn series, how exciting! And then of course they fell in love with the show because it's a great show. So and that was then exciting for me because as time went on, as Parks is going, we're kind of sister shows.
Yeah.
So we're at events together. Then I get to hang with Kate. I get to hang with Phyllis, and I get to hang with Stanley. His real name is Leslie,
yeah.
and like, damn, I love this.
Yeah.
Just special.
Well, I'll give you, and I'm trying to get Leslie David Baker on the show because out of college, if my research is right, he was a therapist at a psych hospital.
I did not know that.
I'm a journalist, so I dig pretty deep.
Well, dude, get him.
I
You
think
should. If
that
that's
would
a fact.
I think that would be incredible. And then obviously, like Steve's just such a big name, but
Yeah.
I believe, and I'm not 100%, but if I'm remembering right, I think his mom is a psychiatrist or
I
psychologist.
have no idea.
It's but it's just back to the whole mental health part of it. It's around you,
Yeah,
whether you know it or not.
of course.
And so I think it's super powerful. I'm checking my memory cards because I can see we have like 5 minutes.
Oh my god, I feel like we've been talking for 5 minutes, but it's been longer.
It's been like an hour and a half.
No way.
I swear to God. But this has been awesome. It's when I meet people this quickly, like I would say 90% of the episodes go great. I would say 5% of them you're like, fuck, I don't know if they really want to be here, but I'm thankful for their time and for opening up. And there's about a 5% where you can feel people like connect and open up. And I think you're in that 5% just because it's like, it's just genuine. The way you tell stories, the way you open up. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
It has been really fun. I got a couple more for you. Just things that you can do now, since we talked about you're not going to therapy for the time being. Maybe we get you back into that. But just what do you do when the jobs aren't as, I don't know, A-list as Parks and Rec? Or I know you're still working a ton, but like it's not the same as it was before. Do you feel like, how do you best take care of your mental health now today, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's also weird because the level of what's happened to people on Parks is all over the place. You have Chris Pratt, who has become one of the biggest stars in the world.
Yep.
Not in the States, not in the Northern Hemisphere, in the
world.
And then you have, a journeyman actor like me who goes and does show guest spots and films and things that maybe people see, maybe they don't. So people are like, is that tough when you work with people and now, and I'll tell you, I'll make a statement right now. Aubrey Plaza will have an Oscar before her career is over.
Incredible.
She's unbelievable. I mean, everyone is so talented. And Adam with Severance and Aziz with Master of None and his writing. And I don't mean to cut out any of them. Retta, Good Girls. Everybody. Rashida, one thing after she's writing now Toy Story 4. I mean, so much great stuff with everybody. Rob Lowe's got, I do a podcast, a rewatch podcast, and Rob was on the other day, Rob Lowe. He's got 3 shows right now. So people like, is it like, does it get like, boy, they're doing that. And, I might be doing a Hallmark film in Connecticut. I have none of that. Thank God. I have no issues with, I just love to work.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm on a Hallmark movie in Connecticut, I'm a pretty happy camper.
Yeah.
I'm heading to Barcelona soon for a film. That makes me pretty happy.
Yeah.
I don't have that, thank God, because I think that might eat people alive.
Sure.
I think it could eat you alive.
Well, stacking up, getting back to mental health, it's like, are your problems as worse as others, or are you stacking up to each and every one? And so I love hearing that. Again, this whole conversation, I can hear that joy and that you love what you do.
Yeah, so my day, but you're saying day to day, it's just kind of I'm living my life. I don't have to put a lot of thought into it. I'm who I was before. Now, okay, that's a ridiculous statement. I'm not who I was 30 years ago. But I'm saying I'm where I wake up, I don't have to wonder what my mental health is that day.
Yeah.
Where for 2 years I did. And it got better as the 2 years went on, but I'm just saying for a big chunk of that, I woke up, where am I today? Can I get through today?
Mm-hmm.
And again, knowing I had to get through, but thinking I couldn't.
Yep.
And one thing, then your brain starts going and you know, it's all scary stuff. So no, but day to day, I don't think much of it. It's
Well-
just thankfully there.
Well, I think that's a good segue into my final question, which I always ask either athletes, actors, musicians, advice for someone that might be that guy that's having panic attacks at 30 years old, doesn't think there's a way to make it, or is too nervous to send that audition tape to go to that audition. I still say tape all the time.
Yeah.
But what advice would you give a struggling, aspiring actor?
Mental health wise or just career wise?
I think you can put them both together. Yeah.
Well, it's weird. It's the dumbest business in the whole world. We go in front of strangers and perform. Who does that? That's crazy when you think about it. Like Amy, we would laugh. We go into a room when you're trying to get a job with people staring at us, and we perform for them. What is that? What world is that? And yet that's what we do. And I'm also lucky. I'm a guy who actually likes auditioning. To me, it's performance, and I like that. But here's what I will say: if it's in your gut, you got to at least try. You got to try. I can't guarantee you're going to make it. Nobody can do that. But if it's in your gut, you got to try. If it's really not in your gut, there's other things you can do. It doesn't have to be acting. There's other, if you want to be in the business, there's other easier parts of this business. If they say, this is a statistic, if you book 1 out of 10 auditions, you're doing well, which means 90% of the time you're told no. No, you are rejected 90% of the time. If you can't handle that, and that's not easy.
No, it's tough.
It's not easy. This is not the right business for you. But if it's in your gut, like it's in my gut.
Yeah.
Even though after everything I rap, I'm like, well, I'll probably never work again. I'm one of those crazy people. Even I'll have work lined up. I rapped something recently. I thought, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to Barcelona. Okay. So
I'm good. Yeah.
I'm good. And I do the podcast, and they fly me places to talk to people, and it's all wonderful. But, self-defeating, pessimistic actors. It's anyway. So, but I guess what I'm saying is, if it's in your gut, you got to at least try. You got to give it a try. And always remember, today is not what tomorrow is going to be. If today's crap happens, even if you're feeling great, shit happens in life.
Yep.
We have people pass. We have illnesses, family with illnesses. We have pets. I'm a pet guy. God forbid my dogs die. You might as well tell me I lost my arm. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But you get through those. You just have to tell yourself there are better days ahead. And I promise you there are. I can promise there are better days ahead.
Well, this was a pretty good day for me.
Me too.
Thank you so much for coming in. I know I lost one of the cameras, but
sorry,
it's okay.
I'm a talker.
This is good. This is good. We're still the main camera rolling, so we're good there. But thank you so much, Jerry, Gary, Barry, Larry,
Terry,
and Jim.
And Jim. I'll take that.
Jim O'Hare, thanks so much for coming on the Mental Game.
Thanks,
and
Brandon.
this was a great conversation. We'll see everybody right back here next week. And I love that conversation with Jim. He was just such a genuine, good guy, and I'm really honored that he wanted to open up about his mental health for the very first time publicly with me here on the Mental Game. You heard us talk about how he reached out to me after I reached out to his manager. Jim is hoping his story will help so many people that loved parks and recreation. That's why he's writing his book, giving you a behind-the-scenes look at his life and the show, and, of course, his mental health. So, again, big thanks to Jim O'Hare for feeling comfortable to tell his story with me and share it with all of you here on The Mental Game. Next week, we have another surprise guest, and it's another actor, this time an actress, from a pretty popular movie and a couple different Disney shows. So that is your hint. We'll see you right back here next week on The Mental Game.